Well, howdy, everybody, and welcome back to another edition of Asynchronous Learning. Hope you guys are all well. Hey, look, I am wearing a purple shirt because today it's purple up for the military. So a huge shout out goes out to all of our military families. But I'd like to manipulate this a little, and I'd like to add in another category to this, and certainly that should be all of the healthcare workers who are out there, your parents who are in the medical professions and are clearly on the front lines as well. I think we should include them today in that recognition. So I hope everyone stays safe and your parents are well. Next up, we need to finish birthdays. Didn't finish those yesterday. So here's what we have going for you guys. So for today, if you know her, can email and chat with her. Danielle Nguyen from my second period class is having a birthday today. So a very happy birthday to you, Danielle. And other than that, we have a threesome for this coming Saturday. From my second period, we have Michelle Ho. From sixth period, we have both Uni Dasher and Myrna Smith. So a huge happy birthday to everybody. Hope you are going to make the best of your day. And certainly, Danielle, hopefully this Wednesday is a great day for you guys. All right. So with that in mind, let's move on. Next on the agenda, I just wanted to quickly give a shout out. Those of you who have already turned in the COVID-19 letters, thank you. Awesome job. I knew this was going to bring out the best in you guys, and there is some phenomenal creativity going on. Everything from one of you who compared this coronavirus to a serial killer to some really playful wording. So I'm having a lot of fun with those, looking over and just enjoying them. I'm not making comments in general to people. There's really no need, but if I see something that strikes me, and I might reach out and give you a quick shout out and say, hey, about something. So again, nothing there to be concerned about if you don't get any comments on that. If you haven't finished that, please get that in ASAP because today is all about our lesson. So that's what we're going to be talking about next, which is our asynchronous activity for you to work on. Pretty much it should be tomorrow on Thursday. So I'm going to pause for a second because I need to switch screens and enlarge the picture here. So hang on. It makes no difference to you, but I was gone for a couple minutes there getting myself squared away. All right, today the main activity for this week, and this is truly our teaching activity of the week. COVID-19 was for a lot of fun and just really processing what we've all been dealing with. So the next activity is a review activity for our class, because I know we covered this pretty well in the fall, but it's really making sure that you guys understand not just the elements of plot, but how a story falls out into that plot line. So for your convenience, what you're looking at right now is I've put a simple PowerPoint with a description of the 6 elements of the plot line. So if you don't remember the distinction about climax and really how that is defined, make sure you take a quick look at this just so you are well aware. All right, so here is the main piece you're going to be doing, what you're going to be doing with that. Hang on one second. Okay, so what you're looking at now is the attachment below. Everything is attached to the assignment in Google Classroom. This is to be completed. My hope is that you're going to complete this for Fahrenheit 451. That's where we left off. Reality is, it has been a month since you finished that book, and I am not sure how great your retention is. So again, it's my hope that you can do this with Fahrenheit 451, but if not, I have attached an alternative story called Thank You, Ma'am by Brain Freeze. All right, Langston Hughes, there it is. So this is a story that's attached for you to read, and then you are going to simply fill this out based on the storyline. So obviously the first thing you need to do is make sure you identify the conflict type. Don't forget about that. And remember, you might want to, after having read the story, is first identify your initiating event. When do you really know there is going to be that problem in the story, so that you can work backwards from there and say, all right, what are some of the things that we learn in the exposition? As we talked about in the fall, really thinking about climax helps you then think about the spread of events in the rising action. Don't forget, especially with Fahrenheit 451, your climax, I'll give you a big hint here, it really does. If you think about what the conflict type is, it comes pretty early on for when there is simply no point of return for Montag and that things go in a new direction. This story has a tremendous amount of falling action and I think you could say a pretty vague resolution. So I'll be curious to see how you handle that. But again, you want to think about the spread of the story and picking and choosing your events between the initiating event and the climax. Don't just put the first 5 things that come to mind that you think of first. Spread it out a little. So I'm going to show you a sample of this with a book that I know you know and love well, which is The Book Thief. So hang on so I can find that. I got everything up here, and this is the one. All right, so mine looks a little bit differently from yours because when I first created this, I was thinking we'd use this form, but it's really hard to use. All right, so let's go down here. So conflict type, it's certainly person versus society in The Book Thief. There are lots of subplots and little conflicts that go along with it. You don't need to worry about point of view for this story, but just as a side note, as I mentioned to you when we read it, this is the most bizarre point of view to define based on the terms you know, just as a reminder. So what I really had to think about is, all right, when do we know Liesel's our main protagonist. So when does she come into conflict with that, with the society, the culture, the group with which she lives? And for me, that's really, for the bulk of the story, it's shortly after her brother dies and when she arrives at the Hubermans, terrified, and there's alone, desperate. All right, so from that point, I'm going to just for now work backwards. So what are some of the key things that I wanted to include? Well, we know that it's the late 1930s Germany. Liesel's brother dies on the train while their foster family. And what should go in this third box is certainly her stealing that first book when her brother is being buried. All right, so now looking at rising action. So we know this is when our problem first comes in. All I want you to do is think about what are key scenes throughout the story that really help us understand what is occurring here. So again, first thing, just Hans, we see right away where it's hard to read with the line over it. Hans is introduced as a caring person who helps Liesel. He's the one who gets her to be calm. He teaches her to roll those cigarettes that first night just to get her mind off of things. He gets her. We also have the whole story of Liesel and Rudy beginning their lifelong friendship, and that's for Liesel with stealing books, but both of them stealing the apples, but so much more is included. You don't want to try and include everything here, just a quick snippet. Other big events that kind of leads up to, Max arrives at the Hubermans with help from his childhood best friend. And remember, Max is most definitely in direct conflict with the Nazi regime. Everyone is in some way in the book. Hans showing compassion by giving bread to the starving Jew, which obviously is that huge twist that leads to the major events. Some of you could look at the book really, if you centered on just Max as the main character, you'd probably find this is the climax, but I don't think that works for the whole of the book. And again, you can pick from many different things, but Hans returns safely from World War II. Number of things I've left out. So for me, what really is that point of no return in the climax? I think it's a no-brainer. It's when the bombs strike, killing everybody in Mulking but Liesel. So where does that leave us? Well, our falling action. You can see it quite clearly. Liesel taken in by Frau Hermann, not bathing again for the funeral for 2 weeks, and that's exactly parallel to where the story began. Alex coming back, a broken man, Liesel working with him, Max surviving and finding Liesel in the shop. And where do we end up? Well, pretty straightforward here. It's when Liesel, as an older woman, as a grandmother, dies and meets death, and everything is revealed to her. So that's just a sampling of how to do that. All right, other than that, let me get off of this. Hopefully they don't have any questions, but if you do, feel free to email me if you like. All right, so this assignment, I'll put this in Blackboard, but this should be turned in by the end of Friday. Just let me know if you have any problems with that. All right, before I go, just some reminders. I will be sending out an email informing you and your parents of the next steps. If you haven't already seen it, my first, third, and fifth period, first, fifth, and seventh periods will not be seen today, Wednesday. So I would like you guys to, I'm going to set up this new Blackboard access. You'll be receiving a link from me later today that will give you your own unique link to come into the Blackboard Collaborate. No more of this trying to log on to Blackboard itself, since it's been such a nightmare. And that's going to give you a window to enter the class. And all we're going to do is just have a meet and greet. It's going to be a big group for this would be for during the office hours tomorrow when I'm going to do this. It's going to be a big group. Hopefully as many of you who want to can make it. I'm simply going to use that as a kind of meet and greet. This is what I'm going to be doing with the classes on Friday. We're just going to go over how this whole structure is going to be used in terms of the Blackboard Collaborate, some of the norms, expectations, but really it's just a chance for us to reconnect, make sure you understand how to use this program, and that we can finally get things going. All right, so that's it from the home office, and I look forward to talking to as many of you as I can and seeing you tomorrow. See ya.